We're continuing to build our own personal visual language today, this time by noticing patterns and rhythm, both outside that we can see and inside that we can feel. Hey Trailblazer, it's Kelly. Welcome back to Crooked Path Studios, where we use art as a rehearsal for the uncertainty of chronic illness. Now, we have talked a little bit about how repetition and patterns are the easiest way that rhythm emerges. And repetition can be a color, a shape, line, or texture just appearing again and again in a piece, or visually in what we see during the day too. These patterns make our eyes begin to move differently across the piece, and they help guide our eyes around the piece. But pattern and rhythm also affect us somatically. They give us an anchor, something predictable, and that's really important when you consider the uncertainty that comes with chronic illness. Today, we'll be working with controlled, repeatable marks by making stamps from found objects. These are things you can find around your home. Packaging is a great one. Old corks, caps, buttons, anything that you can hold in your hand, dip into some paint, and make a mark with repeatedly, and it'll make the same mark. We're not trying to complete a finished artwork here. What we're doing, in fact, is making collage fodder. Pieces that we can rip up and use in collage later, because we're going to be starting some collage very soon. The focus is simply on noticing which patterns and rhythms feel natural to us, that make us happy or smile or curious. Starting to think about what those internal rhythms might look like visually as well, and really allowing that personal visual language to begin to emerge. Oh, one other note. For the check-in and the check-out today, we're going to do some bilateral drawing so that we can get in touch with those internal rhythms that we have, and possibly think about a stamp that might work for that. So you're going to need a piece of copy paper, 2 pieces of copy paper, or whatever paper you happen to have, and something to draw with, 1 in each hand. That could be colored pencils, crayons, oil crayons, magic marker, whatever you want to use is fine. And if you're not familiar with bilateral drawing, then I have put a link to the one we did back in, I think it was November of 2025. I've put that link in the show notes and in the post on Substack, and you're welcome to take a look at that before you jump into the check-in, which is where we're headed next. I decided to do bilateral drawing today for our check-in, and we're just going to do one, not the whole series of 3. So we're just going to do one, but I thought this is the best way to check in with our own internal rhythms. And so what I want you to do today is think about a place that makes you happy. And really think about seeing it in your mind and what color it might be, and then pick that color, and then we're going to get started. So just take a moment, take in the deepest breath you've had all day, close your eyes, think about that place that makes you really happy. What color comes to mind? And then select that color and select one other color so that you have 2 drawing instruments, 1 in each hand. And we'll get started. So go ahead and open your eyes and select the colored pencils or oil pastels or whatever you're going to use. Put 1 in each hand and start to move in a way that that happy place makes you feel, right? Whatever that happy place makes you feel, whatever that internal rhythm is when you see it, when you think about it, tell when I get into this because I stop talking and giving you any kind of guidance. But that's fine. Use your own internal rhythm as your guidance. And stop when you feel that you've connected with that internal rhythm. And take a moment to just look at the shapes that you've made. So I've got a lot of circles and this sort of back and forth motion that made sort of a sawtooth, which I think is interesting. So for your stamping today, anything that you can find around the house, this is the cork from a wine stopper, so you can use either end to make a stamp. This is just the inside of a tape roll, like cellophane tape, but double circle there. I have taken this old spool and glued some rope on one end to make a stamp, and then glued, I don't know if you can see that, but glued one of those bread twist tie things to the other end. It makes an excellent little stamp. You can also look at any packaging that you have. This is just a piece of styrofoam, but I think it'll make a nice sort of weird square rectangle kind of shape. This one will get the L shape, and this had something in it, and just get like a picture frame sort of shape as a stamp. That works. Some other things that I have here. This is the bottom of a bok choy. I had stir-fried bok choy last night for dinner, so we are going to use the ends of the bok choy to use as a stamp. I took more bread twist ties and glued them onto a piece of styrofoam, so you can do that, and this makes a really nice stamp as well. This is part of an egg carton, and the bottom is got a lovely little pattern on it, which makes a great stamp as well. So anything that you find that's got a raised texture to it, this is one of those rubber mats that goes in your drawer to keep everything from sliding around, and I've just glued it onto a scrap piece of foam that came with some packaging. So those can be your stamps. Anything that has a raised texture on it, or something that you can hold in your hand to make a shape. Anything like that will work. Paper. So I'm using some old Gelli prints that didn't turn out the way I wanted them to, so we're going to beautify them today. This is a piece of paper that I got from the Creative Reuse Center. It was a whole pad of paper. I think restaurants were supposed to write their menus on it. It has a knife and a fork and a spoon on it, which is kind of fun. Some onion skin paper. Make sure you grab some tissue paper. This just came out of some hiking shoes that I just got. And any tissue paper, it can be, the kind you wrap presents with or whatever, but tissue paper is great to do stamps on and great for collage, so make sure you get some of that. Any scrap that you have. I'll be taking some pages out of the Hardy Boys book and printing on those, stamping on those. This should be fun because it's got some illustrations in it and some big text, so that's kind of fun. I also have an old roll of tape from like an adding machine. Normally I like to glue things on and make strips with this, but I'm going to stamp on this and then probably glue some stuff on later, collage some things on. I found this paper at the Creative Reuse Center. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a sunflower, a faded sunflower on that. I also have a very large stack of brightly colored copy paper. I don't know why my husband bought this, but anyway, it's great to stamp on. And then a gray piece of paper, an old quilt drawing. So we've done that line work already, and this is one of those pages out of my sketchbook. I'm going to stamp on that and see what happens. And a black piece of paper. So I want to see what happens with this and some bright colors. And let me move all this out of the way. We're going to start with the Gelli print. And there you are. And I am just using a paper plate for my palette today. You can also use, let me see if I can get this. This is just a piece of plexiglass that you can buy at the hardware store. This works too as a palette. It doesn't have any lip on it, so be careful you're not, pushing your paint out. I'm using the paper plate today because we do have to kind of water down the paint a little bit to get it to work. Heavy body acrylics work great for this. You just need to add a little bit of water. The fluid acrylics, they'll work, but they're going to be a little bit thinner. And you might have to add a little bit more paint to them. But for this gray piece, I'm going to try these pink ones. I am working on a series that involve fish and beetles and moths and insects. So I need some bright colors. So we're going to see what this does, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of polka dots, I think. Yeah, polka dots. Small polka dots, big polka dots. And I hold the paper down flat so it doesn't. It's showing up on that gray. And we're just repeating the stamp. Keep going up that way. You don't have to think about it too hard. It's a very relaxing activity, and when you're done, you've got a whole bunch of collage papers to use. Repetition plays an important role here. Visually, repeating a visual element creates rhythm and structure. And for the nervous system, repetition can be very settling and grounding. It reduces decision making and supports a sense of predictability and calm. So once you've chosen your object and your color, there's very little to decide. We are just repeating the stamp on the page. Periodically, you'll need to dip the stamp in the paint again. You can overlap stamps and see what secondary shapes are created. You can skip some spaces, like do 3, then skip a space and do 3 more. See what kind of rhythm that creates for you and how you respond to it. I'm just wiggling this around a little bit to get the paint off. And it's making a kind of a cool texture too, so that's kind of fun. Expectation and anticipation of the same thing happening, which is good for us because, uncertainty is so much of our daily lives with a chronic illness that doing this kind of repeated pattern helps set up a little certainty with still a little surprises and fun, especially over top of this other stuff that's going on there. So I'm going to set that aside. I might come back into it and do a darker splotch in between all of those. So, okay, I don't want this to be too gloppy on the bok choy. Okay, stamp, Oop. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is maybe in between these, just do a different kind of pattern. So this is an offset pattern, which means I'm going to need one up there. Stick at that bottom. Okay. And I don't have to go back to the paint every time. It gives me a little variation in light and dark. And gives everything a little bit of a more texture and value, right? Remember value. I'm liking what's happening here. Alright, and as with the other one, we might come back into that. I think we definitely will come back into that and do something else to it, but I love what's happening with the drawing on the background and then the stamping on top. And I did not set up any place to lay down wet painting. This is just a sponge. That's kind of fun. Between, sure. Let's just see what that looks like. Oh, that's kind of fun. I'm liking this. Look at those colors. Holy crap. This is onion skin paper. It goes fairly translucent and invisible when you put it on a collage. And kind of like tea bag paper, it soaks up paint like nobody's business. And I have discovered that it's really easy to find circular found object stamps in your home. It's harder to find the square rectangular ones, so keep an eye out for those. They're just a little more difficult to find. Just a line and lines. This is such a good base because you can really get a good grip on it. So think about that when you're finding some stamps. Think about what's going to be comfortable in your hand, and if you do have to glue it to something, you know, maybe it needs to be something big versus something teeny, because you could glue this to something else. But so think about what's going to work for you and your situation. I know many of us have pain and joint problems, or holding things for a long time, or repeated motions might be a problem. So think about what's going to make it really comfortable for you. And that's kind of the beauty of making your own stamps, is you get to make them work for you versus, you know, buying something from the store and they're teeny tiny and, you know, don't quite work out. So, I mean, this is going to get ripped up and used in collage. So, you know, you can fill the edges and that can just get ripped off and you can just use that. Or just a little piece of this, or even just a little piece of that. So fill the page, make your repeated marks, but the whole page doesn't have to be the same. So when you're done stamping, go ahead and lay your papers on the floor. Maybe you've already done that to help them dry, but lay them on the floor and take a look at them and ask yourself, which one of these shapes is really making me happy or curious? Which one am I really drawn to? And is that shape an organic shape, or is it a geometric shape? Or maybe it's a combination of both. And then think about what happened internally for you as you were doing the stamping. As you went on and repeated the different shapes, how did your body reset its own rhythm? And look at your pages and determine, how did these change as I continued to repeat that shape? Were there small variations? And what do you like about that or not? How might that expand your own visual language with those different variations that you had no control over? They just happened. And then determine which of these shapes you really want to return to another day, and maybe start making more of them and incorporating that into future collages or other work that you might be doing. Practices like this don't fix the systems that are exhausting us, but they do give us some place to land when we're feeling overwhelmed by those systems. And so let's do our checkout. We're going to go back and do another bilateral drawing. So you'll need a piece of paper, and you can pick a different color if that's going to work for you now. But you'll need one in each hand, whether it's a colored pencil, crayon, oil crayon, whatever you want to use. So go ahead and get those supplies and we'll jump into the checkout. Let's do our checkout. I want you to think about that happy place again that you thought of during the check-in. And take a moment, take a breath, see that happy place, feel that happy place. What colors come to mind now? And what shapes come to mind now? And let's go ahead and draw those internal rhythms and shapes that we're seeing and feeling with our happy place now that we've finished our stamping. So let's go ahead and do another bilateral drawing based on this new internal rhythm we have after completing our stamps. And I have changed colors to pink and red. Red pencil needs to be sharpened, but we're just going to keep on going. All right. So mine are now all circles. There are no sawtooth in there. And I hope this practice has been fun for you today, but I also hope that it has helped you recognize and see some of your own internal rhythms and how you might want to start understanding those. Repetition is one of the best ways to start creating our own visual language and how it really begins, because our hands and our body start to show us what they want to return to without our head getting in the way. The papers and pages you made today will become part of other projects. But I do invite you to take one of the papers that you made that you really love and hang it up someplace that you can see it. Being able to look at our own creativity and our own rhythm is very grounding and helpful. And so I encourage you to hang it up. Not only that, but if it brings you joy, why shouldn't you be looking at it all the time?